to Podcastodon. What am I today? I'm a Tau, which doesn't appear in this edition.
I'm a Lancer mech pilot.
Which also doesn't appear in this edition.
No. But Lancer is a very good game. You should play it.
So, we're not talking about effective altruism today.
No.
Because we want to make the script good.
And because I was fucking late. You'll find out about it in the next episode. It's on the way. It's coming.
Okay.
It's a lot. It is a lot.
So, instead, we'll go delving into my vast personal library.
From the library of Gecko Matson.
Yes, this is a new segment. From the library of Gecko Matson.
I don't think you can call it a segment if it's an entire episode.
It's not a regular episode and it's not a bonus episode.
It's a new series.
So, what we're talking about before I was interrupted was Rogue Trader, the first Warhammer 40,000 book. Now, there's a lot of mythology about this book going around because not a lot of people in the 40K community have read it. Like, it's hard to find. I have a PDF and that took some searching. But today, I want to try to correct some of the mythology and, explain what Rogue Trader actually is. What is this book?
Yeah. We're gonna put the myths to bed.
Yes, we're gonna bust some myths. And we're gonna talk about the very cool things Rogue Trader did that modern 40K doesn't, that makes me wish there was another game or fictional setting. Like how Warhammer was when it first came out. So, for reference, I am an actual 40K player.
I am not an actual 40K player.
Yes.
I have absorbed everything that I know about 40K from my co-host.
Yes, Kat does not play 40K. I play 40K. I specifically play the version of Kill Team from the previous edition because I'm not buying a new book. So I am a casual 40K player, which means I'm a more invested 40K player than a lot of people in the 40K fandom. I actually field the miniatures that I paint in close to weekly Kill Team games with a friend of mine.
Wait, really? I didn't know you actually, found somebody to play with.
A lot of Wednesdays, I go hang out with Crossbones from the Discord server.
Shout out to Crossbones.
And we play Kill Team.
A mutual friend of ours.
Yes, and an actual in-person friend of mine.
Yeah.
Let's start. So, the first thing you'll notice looking at Rogue Trader is that the opening crawl, the opening description in the book, is not the same exactly as the one that's in Black Library books. For more than 100 centuries, the Emperor has sat immobile on the golden throne of Earth. He is the master of mankind by the will of the gods, and master of 1,000,000 worlds by the might of his inexhaustible armies. He is a rotting carcass, writhing invisibly with power from the dark age of technology. He is the carrion lord of the Imperium, to whom 1,000 souls are sacrificed every day, and for whom blood is drunk and flesh eaten. Human blood and human flesh, the stuff of which the Imperium is made. To be a man in such times is to be one among untold billions. It is to live in the cruelest and most bloody regime imaginable. This is the tale of these times. It is a universe you can live in today, if you dare. For this is a dark and terrible era where you will find little comfort or hope. If you want to take part in the adventure, then prepare yourself now. Forget the power of technology, science, and common humanity. Forget the promise of progress and understanding, for there is no peace amongst the stars. Only an eternity of carnage and slaughter, and the laughter of thirsting gods. But the universe is a big place, and whatever happens, you will not be missed.
Yeah, it's not quite the same.
First of all, it talks to you, the player, in the second person, and it talks about adventure. The if you dare, the adventure, the universe is a big place and whatever happens, you will not be missed. There's the feeling that, they're having fun with this.
Yeah.
It's not solemn. I read it in kind of a solemn voice, but I think that's not really appropriate for the whole thing.
Do you want me to try and read it in fem voice?
That doesn't feel appropriate. Fuck it, it's good audio.
For more than 100 centuries, the Emperor has sat immobile on the golden throne of Earth. He is the master of mankind by the will of the gods and the master of 1,000,000 worlds by the might of his inexhaustible armies. He is a rotting carcass writhing invisibly with power from the dark age of technology. He is the carrion lord of the Imperium to whom 1,000 souls are sacrificed every day, and for whom blood is drunk and flesh eaten. Human blood and human flesh, the stuff of which the Imperium is made. To be a man in such times is to live one amongst untold billions. It is to live in the cruelest and most bloody regime imaginable. This is the tale of these times. It is a universe you can live today if you dare, for this is a dark and terrible era where you will find little comfort or hope. If you want to take part in the adventure, then prepare yourself now. Forget the power of technology, science, and common humanity. Forget the promise of progress and understanding, for there is no peace amongst the stars, only an eternity of carnage and slaughter at the laughter of thirsting gods. But the universe is a big place, and whatever happens, you will not be missed.
That was good, but it kind of sounded like you wanted to fuck the Emperor. We could spend fucking 10-20 minutes just reading this fucking text crawl in different voices. God, that's bonus material. Us just reading the
40K crawl in different voices. So, for various reasons, I wanted to learn how to do a femme voice. I did, like, a test of my vocal range. I realized I could just use, like, a guitar tuner app to determine, okay, what's the highest and lowest note I can produce. And it turns out that I have the lowest possible human vocal range that a person can normally have. I have a basso profundo.
Now I need to know what my vocal range is.
I suspect you are also a basso profundo.
Yes.
So I was like, fuck, I'm not going to be able to do this. And then I was like, well, if I'm going to have, like, whatever femme voice I can produce, it's going to be at the low end of the range. So, fuck it. I'm just going to lean into that. I'm going to own it.
Yeah, that's the good choice. So I will say that for various reasons thing, everyone knows which reason I'm talking about. Like, I think it's pretty obvious.
I will say, it is a little bit weird coming into this game having listened a fair bit to the band Bolt Thrower, but not being into 40K at all.
So, here's another thing with text on it, after you get through the table of contents.
Okay.
So, on page 6, it says, if you've ever left the cinema or turned from the TV screen, wishing that you could invent your own Death Stars, stormtroopers, whirling ornithopters, and wild-eyed heroes, then this is for you. Warhammer 40,000 is the game that lets you create all kinds of exciting, futuristic adventure on a tabletop. You will need only a few models, a little scenery, and the odd accessories such as dice and a ruler. But most importantly, you will need a smattering of creative genius. The fact that you are reading this is a sure indication that you are eminently qualified on that score. Note how completely different this is in tone.
Yes.
40K, at least the Rogue Trader era, it doesn't have tone problems. It has an interesting thing going on. Well, it is a game that everybody is having fun with. And the interior, like, material of it is about a profoundly fucked up world. But, like, there's at the same time this palpable, like, kid in sandbox element.
Yeah.
Also, something I should bring up from that text crawl from the beginning. One, the Rogue Trader version does get reproduced in the little booklet I got with my 40K starter set. So I think it does continue to show up in that version.
Okay.
But the thing about he's the master of mankind by the will of the gods makes way more sense in Rogue Trader.
Mm-hmm.
Because in this edition, explicitly, people in the Imperium worship various gods other than the Emperor. they're not named, but they're there, and not everybody in the Imperium worships the Emperor. That's one of the many weird things going on here. Weird by modern standards.
Mm-hmm.
Also, they have to explain what a fantasy game is. Like, they talk about, wargamers have made historical war games, but now fantasy games abandon the idea of recreating historical events for purely imagined stuff. Like, I find it interesting that they have to explain this, but you would in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that's interesting for me is, like, if you've ever left the cinema or turned off the TV screen wishing you could yada yada, like, the specific goal of 40K is to replicate movie and TV sci-fi on tabletop.
Yeah.
Which is not what modern 40K is doing.
No, it really isn't. Modern 40K is its own thing.
Yes. And this explains some of the malleability that you'll see in Rogue Trader.
Yeah.
Also, the line about wild-eyed heroes, like, I'm not sure Luke Skywalker was really wild-eyed. Which wild-eyed heroes are they talking about? Like, the Doctor, also not wild-eyed. I suppose Kirk was kind of wild-eyed.
Yeah, he was in the Wrath of Khan.
Yeah. Khan!
Okay. All right. So what do you got?
So a lot of this is vibes based. We're going to be talking about vibes. And one of the interesting things that they say here is, later you'll discover a complete and enthralling background for the game. A universe of the far future where bloodshed and battle form an integral part of a strange and violent society. That much has continued.
Yeah.
Like, it's not completely different. And if there's two ways I would describe the setting of 40K, one is strange, two is violent.
I once saw, like, a booktuber who was into, like, like YA fiction and, like, library chick vibes, And this person was talking about, like, being introduced to Warhammer 40K and was just sort of, like, confused. Somebody in the comments said, Warhammer 40K makes way more sense if you just think, what would a being made of pure testosterone do?
That is in this book, especially the art. So, the thing that Rogue Trader has is that it is funny in the way dudes hanging out often are. Like, I'm not saying it's positive masculinity, because what the fuck is positive masculinity? But, like, it's still relentlessly masculine, but the vibe is more fun.
Okay, I am interested to know what that means. I imagine that we will see more of it if we progress further through the things that you want to talk about.
Other quick gameplay things to talk about. One, this has a games master. Not a game master.
A games master.
Rogue Trader is not an RPG, right? It's not a cooperative game. It's a competitive game.
Mm-hmm.
But you have a games master, or at least it's recommended you have a games master who's going to ensure that the two sides are roughly balanced, design scenarios, and control other elements of the, like, adventure or combat.
Also, you don't play a Warhammer 40K game, you fight a Warhammer 40K game in this.
Yeah. Also,
that's interesting.
It uses the full set of polyhedral dice, even though the 40K that I've played only uses d6s.
Interesting.
Speaking of pure testosterone, the art on the combat section, which features orcs and space marines fighting.
And there's this, like, horribly mutated guy in the front.
That's just a kind of fucked up space marine. So, there is a guy dual wielding, shooting off a bolter in one direction, and then using his pistol to finish off an orc who's fallen down.
Yeah.
There's, like, weird arcane artillery in the background. The orcs are all long-nosed and have Stahlhelms, the World War I and II German helmets. Like, it's punk as fuck. So, other thing, when it's describing terrain, it says, in the Warhammer 40K universe, battle and adventure can take place on any one of over 1 million worlds. Again, they talk about adventure.
Yeah.
Modern 40K does not talk about adventure that much. They also advise you how to make your own terrain, which I don't think Games Workshop would ever do now.
No,
buy Citadel terrain.
How can we sell you our terrain if you make your own terrain?
Yeah. My next talking point is fucking wild art.
Yeah, the art in this book it's very weird.
And I love it.
We got, like, whatever the fuck is going on with this guy.
Tubes.
Lots of tubes. And, like, weird proportions. Like, the proportions of characters' bodies are very strange. This guy looks like he's, like, a good 20% of his body is shoulder.
His head is recessed into his body.
He has huge palms, but tiny fingers.
No, those are just partly folded.
Yeah, but it's hard to tell because of the way that it's drawn.
It does kind of look like he has tiny fingers, yeah. I think he's just gripping some of those tubes.
Yeah.
Other thing related to it being more RPG-like, you have a couple of stats, like intelligence and cool.
Cool.
Well, cool is keeping you cool under pressure.
Okay.
Though I choose to imagine it's how cool this character is.
Yeah.
But the point is that some of this shit, like strength and toughness and cool and intelligence, in my mind at least, there's the implication that you're going to be making checks that are not typical combat with these stats.
Yeah. Did they mention those stats at any point? Like, do they have any actual mechanical effect?
Yeah, well, you use cool you make tests for, like, morale and shit. There's a minimum intelligence necessary to operate equipment. It's divided into fighting characteristics and personal characteristics. Some other weird mechanics. Tubes came in units. You know, unit of 10 guys or so.
Yeah.
But you could split off a figure of a unit to do their own thing, but you couldn't command them. You had to give written orders to the GM, who would then carry it out. This is very interesting to me, and it's extremely wargamey. We are doing a military simulation.
Mm-hmm.
Also, during the section on cover, they described a certain type of terrain as woods or woods-like vegetation, which is just funny to me.
There is some flavor text in here that gives kind of a sense of the lore.
Yes, there are pithy quotes.
There are pithy quotes.
Yes. Look to your battle gear and it will protect you. We guard it with our lives. Your armor is your soul, and your soul's dedication its armor. The soul of a warrior is the shield of humanity. Honor the craft of death. Only the Emperor is higher in our devotion. Honor the battle gear of the dead. We ask only to serve. Part of the warrior's catechism of worship.
Yeah, the whole, like, vibe of, like, the Emperor is divine and, like, the very, like, religious overtones of everything and, like, zealotry. All of that stuff is there. It's just, the stuff about adventure has disappeared.
Yeah, in this edition, there is a balance.
Yeah.
There's a delicate balance between the, like, intense totalitarianism of the Imperium and the opportunities for adventure.
Mm-hmm.
In the section on firing into hand-to-hand combat, it says it's normally not allowed because it would be very easy to hit the wrong person. However, some entities are sadly lacking in moral judgment and may wish to fire. Fucking love this.
I love when tabletop RPG books or not tabletop RPGs, but, like, game rule books are opinionated.
Again, there's this sense of humor. There's a tone in here that I describe as wry.
Yeah.
W-R-Y, not R-Y-E. I don't think anybody writing this drank rye.
This has the energy of, like, a bunch of friends screwing around the kitchen table.
Yes, that's because that's how it started.
Yeah. And that's very evident in this book.
So, if you have a copy of this book, 40K drinking game, take a shot every time a piece of 40K lore that would get developed later gets dropped and then moved past. And I don't mean, like, developed in paragraphs. I'm talking about, like, this text box with the Catachan Devil. The planet Catachan would become more famous later as home to one of the better-known Imperial Guard regiments. Also, page 27. Very important image. This is Lehman Russ, Marine Commander Lehman Russ, born in M32 in the Guranta di Gurantan system. Commissioned as a special agent of the Adeptus Terra first rose to Imperial notice during the Lucan Crusade. Appointed Imperial Commander Lucan in M32, instrumental in the founding of the Adeptus Astartes Unit 4 Space Wolves. Suffered severe alveolar damage during acid storms on Susa. Transplanted with Cybron Osmotic Grill. You'll note, this is not Primarch Leman Russ, as he appears later. Son of the Emperor, not entirely literally. Viking from Fenris, huge superhuman. This is Imperial Agent Leman Russ, who was instrumental in founding Adeptus Astartes Unit 4. The vibe is different.
Yeah.
Leman Russ, in this edition, is fucked up from an acid cloud. And he's a guy.
Yeah.
He was commissioned as an Imperial agent of the Adeptus Terra. Just the fact that he is able to be kind of jacked up looking is a sign that this edition of 40K treats Primarchs and the Imperium differently.
Mm-hmm. Everything is kind of fucked up looking in this edition.
Yes, this is something that I think is very important. Nominally, 40K still runs on a deeply fucked up morality, but the amount of Imperium glazing that goes on now is too much.
Yeah. Well, in this book, it's very clear that, like, the Imperium is not being glazed in this book. Not really.
Talking about are the Imperium the bad guys is the wrong way to look at it. They've always been bad guys.
Yeah.
And they've always been also kind of sympathetic, even in this edition.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that in this edition, they're fucked up in a different way.
Yeah. They're less cool looking.
Yes. I'll get to this later, but the Imperium of this edition is something old and twisted.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, it's not so much the big gothic despotism of modern 40K.
Yeah.
Again, it makes me think of Dune.
Yeah, it has kind of Dune vibes and kind of like Mad Max almost. Like everybody's just kind of weird and fucked up.
This is something I'm gonna talk more about later, but like, Oldhammer could also be moody in a way 40K isn't. Just the fact that it portrays so much lore with little pithy quotes in black space with an eagle over them, in my mind conveys a different kind of Imperium. Like, the Imperial thought of the day continues in modern 40K, but the minor shit. Just having so much lore about the Imperium delivered through slogans head-stamped with the Imperial crest indicates, like, this is the image it's trying to project.
There's a sense, at least to me, for somebody who doesn't play this game, so I could be completely off base, but like to me there's a kind of sense in modern 40K that a lot of people buy into the Imperium's propaganda, and in this edition it kind of doesn't seem like the average person buys into it so much.
We'll get more into that later.
Okay.
Also, I love this little text box. So for reference, later there's a piece of like description about a guy going on the trials to be a space marine. But there's a little text box next to it saying commit to Imperial Record LBC, this number. Cross-file to narrative fiction, primitive anthropology, and xenobiology. With today's thought, a small mind is a tidy mind. A quick thing from this piece of fiction, there's a line about perhaps they would honor him as they had his father by making him a space marine, which means a space marine had a kid before becoming a space marine. That's not something that would happen now, because you have to be a kid to be a space marine. Another quote here that is very good. It is not my mind to ask questions that cannot be answered. That is the soul standing upon the crossroads of vacillation. You search for wisdom, but achieve only a stasis of will.
That feels very Dune.
Yeah.
That kind of philosophical quote.
Okay, robot rules. Look at this long-ass robot rules.
Yeah.
Essentially, how to command robots, a robot of 7 intelligence or less. The player must write down the intended move directions 2 turns in advance. And if they're really low intelligence, you have to write them down 3 turns in advance. Once you write it down, it cannot be changed. This is some shit that you would not do in modern 40K.
Yeah. It's janky.
Speaking of janky, vehicles have an acceleration-deceleration stat. It works like how you'd think. The number of inches by which the flyer can increase speed from turn to turn and can decrease speed at twice the acceleration-deceleration rate.
That's really janky.
There's also a turning radius stat.
Again, like, this is the kind of thing that people come up with when they're just screwing around at the kitchen table with their friends.
It's also what early wargaming did, trying to be realistic, that proved unwieldy on tabletop.
Yeah.
You could create your own hero personality units,
Mm-hmm.
which is different from modern 40K, where there are only stat cards for named characters that the writers came up with. There's a point here about improving a character's profile in a campaign, where at the end of each game, the character receives a point to advance a stat.
Hold on a second. Okay, so at the bottom right of page 47, I want to just call attention to this art of this person who has like a bolter or something in one hand and a decapitated head that they're holding up by the hair in the other. And this person has like what seems to be a horned helmet, a leather jacket, and leopard print pants.
The helmet is not horned. We will see this image full size later.
Okay.
So, yeah, you can increase your stat by points unless the GM judges your character to be unworthy of the advance, or if they're wounded. It says, this is a simple way to do this. It should not be compared with the more complex and involved methods used in RPGs such as Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. However, GMs are at liberty to develop the system further as suits their needs. Again, you wouldn't get this amount of homebrew encouragement in modern 40K.
Yeah. It's interesting that it encourages you to homebrew stuff because that feels like the least Imperium thing to do. Telling you to buy official Citadel things feels like a more Imperium thing to do.
There's a reason this is called Rogue Trader. The Rogue Trader kind of emphasizes the spirit of 40K. Again, we'll get to this later, like everything.
Mm-hmm.
In this edition, they're fighting on the side of the Imperium, serving the Imperium,
Okay.
but they have leeway.
Yeah.
They're able to do things their way, and they're permitted to make calls about things like diplomatic relations with aliens. Oh, also here's some dark shit. For over 1,000 days, the great barge of the Adeptus Astronomica sailed towards Earth. In the 13 holds, each as cavernous as a temple nave, our human cargo was set up a great wailing and moaning. There were over 2,000 souls bound for service, men, women, and children, young and old, the sick and the sound. Only the children did not know. But I am a psycho like them, and I know their pain. I felt the chains as if they were upon my own limbs. I knew their fate. They had been tested and found wanting. They were too vulnerable, too dangerous to live. I am the guardian of the Adeptus Astronomica. Souls such as these I carry to the Emperor's table. They talk about the Astronomicon a lot, and I just think it's good. Since the 20th century, mankind has suffered constant mutation as a result of exposure to various types of genetically damaging radioactive and chemical pollution. Nuclear wars ravaged many worlds during the Dark Age of technology and in the ensuing Age of Strife. I feel like this implies some kind of nuclear war in the 20th century. Just because of the constant mutation bit. I know the nuclear wars they're talking about later in the Dark Age of technology, but just an allusion to 20th century Earth is weird for 40K. There's a mutant creation table.
Yes. There's one that just says hideous appearance.
Arms elongate at will. Hideous appearance. The mutation leaves the creature in such a disgustingly sickening condition that it causes fear in all intelligent beings. Hypnotic gaze, enormously fat, illusion of normality. You have at least one other mutation, but appears perfectly normal unless touched. Mutation, cowardice. This creature is genetically chicken. Black skin, which means like all light is completely absorbed. It's just...
One of these is Silly Walk.
Yes, but black skin, like, it's not bad, but I would have told them not to do it.
Yeah.
Also, burning body. Skin is burning constantly. Also, between all of these, I think you would be able to create every member of the Fantastic Four. Burning body, invisibility, arms elongate at will.
One of them just says furry.
Yeah, very warty skin, I think, would fit in for Ben Grimm.
Okay.
Does it not have... Oh yeah, very strong. Yeah, you can make all of the Fantastic Four on here. This was very important to check. Also, more badass 40K art. danger, mutants.
Everybody is weird and fucked up in this setting.
Yeah.
In a way that later 40K is not. There was this, attitude in the 80s of, it was cool to make everything as gross and ugly as possible.
I feel like that was more of a 90s thing.
Yeah, but it kind of got started in the 80s, I think.
Yeah.
I feel like first edition 40K kind of plays into that.
Also, Battle at the farm. They have a sample section here, and this great piece of artwork where it looks like this Beaky. He's reaching out to grab this orc's head, and he's either gonna kiss him or headbutt him.
Yeah. It looks like he's pleading with him. No, spare my life.
I choose to imagine he's about to headbutt him.
Also, do you want to explain what a Beaky is?
A Beaky is a space marine in these old-timey space marine helmets with the beak. Later on, that would be the home of an onboard sensor suite. This image is captioned on the other page with, relations between humans and orcs have always been somewhat strained.
First edition 40K has a sense of humor. It's a very, dry sense of humor, but it does have a sense of humor.
Yeah. Also, this is the origin of the Crimson Fist Space Marines with their chapter master, Pedro Cantor.
I take it that name did not come through.
Pedro Cantor?
Yeah.
No, he's still in charge.
Oh, okay.
Pedro Cantor is one of the most famous Crimson Fist Space Marines. They gave all of the later Crimson Fists, or a lot of them, Spanish-sounding names. One of the other big characters is Alessio Cortez.
Ah, that name I do remember.
Pedro Cantor was just named after a guy on the dev team, I think. Or one of the playtesters. In the GM's brief, it talks about how the Orc Warlord Snagrod, the Arch-Arsonist of Caledon, kept threatening that he was going to invade the neighboring system, but Pedro Cantor, in common with the rest of the population, maintained that it couldn't happen here, and that no stinking little Orc Warlord was gonna mess with the Crimson Fists. This is how Space Marines talked back then.
In common with the rest of the population, he was dead wrong.
Yes, if he'd taken the threats a little more seriously, things might have been different. If the plant's defenses had even been at full alert, things would certainly have been different. And the stray defense missile not fallen on top of the Marines' arsenal, things would have been very different indeed.
Yeah, everybody seems less competent. Nobody is cool in this setting.
Well, I'd argue that everybody is kind of cool. Oh, this explains the tone of 40K at the time. Only the insane have strength enough to prosper. Only those that prosper truly judge what is sane.
Fuck, that's hard. That's really good.
Speaking of hard lines, for every battle honor, 1,000 heroes die alone, unsung and unremembered.
Yeah.
In the description of weapons, it describes the bolt gun, and it says, for some reason they're popular with orcs. And I'm like, what do you mean for some reason? I don't know, it's a weird thing to say.
There's a musket?
Yes, this is where we get
Okay, I'm gonna read this. A primitive weapon still used on some feral and backwater planets, of which Birmingham is the most well known. Birmingham, also known as the Black Planet, receives almost no visible light. As a result, no one wants to go there. Its inhabitants have become linguistically and culturally isolated. Just the shade.
Just the pure British shade.
Oh my god. The Birmingham slander. I could make some local references of equivalent things in the area where I live, but the problem is that would reveal too much, and I would slightly dox myself.
If you look at the improvised weapons here, you have a bottle, a billy club, and somebody's severed fist. I choose to imagine somebody is hitting somebody with a severed fist, not punching. It would fit with 40K, especially the art of this edition.
Yeah.
There's a quote here. There are no answers, only death.
There are no answers, only death.
This is the level of insane shit that people write when they just don't give a fuck.
So there's this YouTube channel called Warrior Tier, and that's Tier. He writes motivational, like, video scripts themed around 40K. There are no answers, only death is never making it into a Warrior Tier video.
I also have to complain about this Force Sword for a second. This is the most ass weapon sword I have ever seen. And there are some pretty bad sword designs in fantasy and sci-fi. This might be the worst.
It's not gonna work.
Like, you should point the blade in the direction that you're going to be swinging the sword. The guard and the blade should be pointed in the same direction so that you can protect your fingers while you hold the sword.
Also, there's a thing in here called a force rod, which is what you use to channel psychic power.
Yeah.
But it's made from an indestructible black substance that's impenetrable by X-rays or probes of any kind. If it's a solid rod, what would you even be X-raying in there?
I don't know. It's just X-raying shit for the hell of it.
Like, could you hide something in there?
Meth. Okay, the one way that sword would work, the Force Sword, it would work if you used it in thumb grip. Trying to explain any sword things on a podcast is difficult, but like, instead of swinging the sword using your arm, you turn it like 90 degrees and rotate your wrist to try to hit with it, and you could kind of use it that way, and then the guard kind of makes sense.
I'll take your fucking word for it.
I do not know of any sword that is intended to be used purely in thumb grip.
Okay.
Also, there's a weapon here called the Jokero digital weapon.
Yes, no, that's still around. So the Jokero are a race of super tech-savvy orangutan-looking aliens that make super tiny, sophisticated technology. It has a quote there that I can't read because my copy is low. Oh, it says "Death is honor." From my zoomed out position, it looked kind of like it was saying "Death is heaven" or "Death is hobos."
I like "Death is hobos."
Also, the other one says "Fear is the mind killer."
Yeah, that's good.
Also, they have a neurodisruptor here.
Which is just a bunch of crystals.
It's another type of mind killer. It says it was manufactured by aliens, but an unknown type of aliens, and they've only shown up in trade. Which I'm like, oh yeah, that would happen in an intergalactic society.
Yeah.
Also, the plasma pistol says "Peace is hell" underneath it. One of the most interesting things in the weapons list is the hallucinogen gas grenade. Your hands are slimy tentacles, your fingers are twisted worms. This is a hallucination, snap out of it. Roll for confusion. Spiders, hundreds of them. Tear off all your clothing, discard all equipment, and scratch. The tree, building / other suitable object moved. Why can't the others see it? You'll have to save the day, blast the hell out of it. Now's your chance. You've been waiting for a moment like this for months. Just run behind those buildings and leave these mugs. You'll be home within a week and never see them again. The sky's so big and wide, it would be great to just jump up into it and fly around like a Petra squirrel. The character stands on the spot and leaps into the air as high as he can. The enemy, they're all around you. Fire, throw grenades, shout warnings to your friends. Randomize firing and other weapon use. Determine hits on friends as appropriate.
We don't have to read all these things out because the audience will be able to see them.
Yeah, but I don't know what I'm doing.
Let's get on to the point and things that you think support the point.
Every man is a spark in darkness. By the time he's noticed, he's gone forever. A retinal after-image fades and is obscured by newer, brighter lights.
That's hard.
I know you don't want me to read large blocks of text, but there is an AdMech instruction manual that I think people deserve to hear.
Okay.
Strike the first rune upon the engine's casing, employing the chosen wrench. Its tip should be anointed with the oil of engineering, using the proper incantations when the auspices are correct. Strike the second rune upon the engine's casing, employing the arc tip of the power driver. If the second rune is not good, a third rune may be struck like the manner of the first. This is done according to the true ritual laid down by Scotty the engineer. A libation should be offered. If this sequence is properly observed, the engines may be brought to full activation by depressing the large panel marked on. This is the single best description of the AdMech in 40K.
In real life, people who use technology of various kinds have superstitions about things that they will do to make it work, and the Adeptus Mechanicus have just turned these superstitions into a religion.
Yeah, basically. So the whole section on vehicles contains only a few interesting things.
The Vincent Black Shadow!
Yeah, that's an actual model.
Yes, it's an actual model of motorcycle, and it's very important in Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
Yes, this famed Pharaoh Beast is the fabled mount of many of the mercenary bike warriors that infest the forgotten, distant, and lawless parts of the galaxy.
So, like, they're not even giving a fuck here. Like, they're just referencing things because it's funny.
Well, that was a very popular bike in the 1940s in Britain.
Yeah, but, like...
It's like if I had a model of car in a sci-fi thing and I called it a Lambo.
Yeah, exactly.
First of all, the Vincent Black Shadow thing. I think that does have an actual point that we can talk about, which is the 40K in this edition is an amalgam of shit from other things because it's dudes having fun with it. And
yeah, there's a sand crawler mentioned in there.
Yes, but it only carries 2 crewmen. It's not like a Star Wars sand crawler.
Yeah, but...
The point that I'm getting at here is that, like early D&D, where they were just pulling elements from, like, Greek mythology and, like, books that Gary Gygax had read and, like, history, and putting it all together into a new thing that would kind of become the fantasy genre as we know it now. Mm-hmm. With 40K, it was people drawing on, like, a selection of things and pulling them together. Things that they had, like Dune and, like, war movies and, like, fucking cool motorcycles from the 40s.
Yeah.
And fantasy games because D&D was out. And they made a thing without having a template for how to do it. Nowadays, if you do fantasy or do sci-fi, there is a clear template you can base it on. One of several. Mm-hmm. There's a guy I know who's super into light novels, and he's into isekai.
Is that...
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Shout out to...
Even though I'm gonna kind of talk shit about him. Well, why I do not like some of the things he likes. My problem with that whole genre of like that and lit RPGs and that whole thing of fiction is it's a really obvious example of a broader problem with fantasy and sci-fi of like self-consciously artificial and self-referential media where you just take like a template of how the thing goes and put it together. Like in the isekai setting is even more codified than the standard fantasy setting where there's a demon king and a holy church and an ordinary dude who has been taken from our world to that world, and there are like angels and like orcs are in roving bands and maybe rapey. There's a conflict between heaven and hell, but heaven and hell are not necessarily good and evil. There's that one city with the circular wall going around it.
Yeah.
And, like, this is not that. It's derivative, but it's derivative of many things that you wouldn't think of.
Yeah.
This is a Warhammer Fantasy example, but in Warhammer Fantasy, there is a scenario in one of the early editions called Orcs Drift, where you reenact the movie Zulu and the historical Battle of Orcs Drift with elves besieged by orcs.
Yeah.
You could do a whole fucking essay about the legacy of colonialism in fucking British genre fiction. But that's not what I'm here to talk about. What I'm here to talk about is that I love that there was a time when, given a miniatures rule set, people's instinct is to reenact a movie.
Yeah.
This is something that we can talk about from this edition, is they have stats for civilian cars in here. It says it's inconspicuous enough for a bank raid, fast enough for a dash to the spaceport, common enough to resell with no questions asked. That implies, like, again...
that you might do a heist.
Doing cool movie scenarios.
Yeah.
Like, one of the key emphases of Rogue Trader, emphases, is 40K has always had an identity crisis of trying to be a competitive tournament game and not really being suited to it.
Yeah.
But in Oldhammer, it was not really a tournament game. It was more like an RPG. There was emphasis on creating interesting scenarios. And I could totally see a fun wargaming scenario of you gotta fight your way out of this place you're robbing and get back to your car.
Yeah.
And maybe at that point you could do some vehicular combat.
Yeah. Oh, this is giving me tabletop RPG ideas. I'm running a Lancer campaign right now.
Yes, but you would never do that in a modern wargame.
Yeah.
You could absolutely run it in a wargame.
But nobody does.
It's not nearly as common.
Yeah.
Like, more peer-to-peer fighting and less idiosyncratic objectives.
Yeah. I think that you could play Lancer this way. Lancer feels like the book is written in such a way that it expects you to play it almost like a serial war game, where it's like, the book is full of scenarios. The way that the writers imagined Lancer is as like a series of fights that have a story kind of linking them together. It's a series of wargame fights linked together by a story.
You could, I think, run Lancer by having two opposed groups fighting.
Well, no, the problem is Lancer is not really designed to be played that way. It kind of is designed so that it is asymmetric.
But you could design a war game like this.
Yeah, like the space between war games and RPGs is interesting and not explored very much, like narrative war games.
That's because the fan base doesn't overlap as much as it used to.
Yeah. All right, let's keep going.
There's a section here about walker craft and how when selecting kits you'll have to be discriminating. Many of those available are far too humanoid to be credible.
Excuse you, book. What do you mean I can't put a Gundam in Warhammer 40K? I'm annoyed by that. I'm annoyed by the excessively humanoid walkers comment. Fucking, if we're talking about, like, bipedal mechs, it's the concept of them being bipedal that is implausible. If you're already building a bipedal mech, there's no reason why you couldn't make it more humanoid. Honestly, if you made the Gundam from 0079 just look a little bit more fucked up, it would work in 40K, I think.
Oh, another classic 40K quote. Do not waste your tears. I was not born to watch the world grow dim. Life is not measured in years, but by the deeds of men.
That's pretty hard.
You say that the Imperium is not cool, but sometimes they are.
Yeah. I think that the Imperium of modern 40K it's bad, but it's trying to be, like, still bad in a cool way. Whereas the Imperium of Rogue Trader is sometimes just dumb.
Yes, but it's also sometimes cool.
Yeah.
Also, there's a cool poem. Though silver in your palm weighs light compared to death by blast and sword, do not shy the hopeless fight, for endeavor is its own reward. Yeah, other good one is life is a prison, death shall be my release.
Dang.
Okay, so, welcome back to Podcastodon. Again, we're brought to you by Nebula, which is not either of our streaming services. You can find some shit on there, but I'm not subscribed to it because I don't subscribe to things.
Find some shit on Nebula. It has shows.
We could make a series of high-quality documentaries on Nebula, but as we said, we're not on Nebula. So this is the Age of the Imperium section. This is kind of the bit that people are gonna think about more.
Alright.
One important thing, it says at the beginning, you could use the 40K rules to represent any film or book-based universe.
Any film or book-based universe.
Yeah, this was not strictly for the 40K setting.
Yeah.
Like, by the second edition, this would be a rule set for a universe.
Yeah.
So, first interesting thing is that the warp isn't a thing. The warp and chaos and all that stuff, they're not in Rogue Trader. They get introduced in first edition, but in later books. You have warp space, which is like hyperspace. It, like, has different rules about faster than light travel, and, like, it's described as, like, a dense fluid medium that's subject to constant movement, currents, undertows, etc. The warp is an ocean. But, like, the ever-increasing threat of chaos is not a thing in this book. Also, there are warp gates that you can go through that are way easier than, like, navigating it normally, and no one knows who built them, but you don't control where they go. They just go to where the linked warp gate is. Pretty standard sci-fi stuff.
Yeah.
There are creatures in the warp, but they're not all part of the uniform chaos thing.
Yeah.
Also, they have navigators which work like Dune navigators.
Yeah.
And now here's a section that I do think is worth reading about. Over 10,000 years ago, the great emperor of mankind ascended to the golden throne of Earth. Of the wars he waged to get there, the countless agonies of battling worlds, there is no record. Only the emperor remembers, if indeed that strange and ancient creature can recall those distant times. One of the key things about the Imperium in this edition is that it's old as fuck. Like, in modern 40K, you can sometimes forget that the Emperor is a fucking vegetable. Like, when I think about the Emperor, I mostly think about how he looks in Horus Heresy, where he's like a dude.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that portrayal of him doesn't exist here. There is only unfathomably ancient great Emperor of mankind. And note they don't say God Emperor.
Yeah. It's just the Emperor.
Here's another telling bit. In many respects, it is a time of superstition, in which great and unfathomable technology has been enslaved to the forces of mysticism and madness. To ordinary humans of these times, the peasants in the field and the warriors amongst the stars, scientific thought represents an abhorrent perversity, a corruption of honor and religious virtue. Even to those few humans who deal with the material of technology, the science and magic have become largely inseparable. The warp engine must have runes on its side. The laser gun requires the blessing of the gods of battle. The Imperium in this edition feels like the kind of stereotypical portrayal of medieval Europe to me.
Yeah.
Like, there is a lost, like, advancements. People are still using some of them, have forgotten some of them, like, superstition rules things.
Okay, here's a thing that I could bring into this, because I'm at least a little bit familiar with Isaac Asimov's Foundation series.
Yes.
And that is a big theme of Foundation, where, like, there's a kind of backsliding in scientific knowledge because of the collapse of society, and people don't understand how things work anymore. And there's a kind of religion of technology.
I'm trying to think of the good, eloquent way to put this, but, like, I think part of the reason why this edition feels different is because it spends so much time on things other than Space Marines fighting chaos. They go into detail breaking down, like, the Adeptus Terra, which they call the priesthood, but is really the administrative body of the Imperium. They talk about, like, planetary administration and the Adeptus Arbites, which are the law enforcement, and the navigators and stuff. And it feels more lived in this way. The Imperial Guard and the Space Marines are just a part of a big thing that is the Imperium. And, like, in modern 40K, you don't get so much of a feel of the Imperium as a place where people live. People joke about fucking Gulp Shido and, like, the intense development of every part of Star Wars. But in my mind, that's part of the beauty of Star Wars. There's a feeling that if you poke around something, there's going to be something interesting.
Who's Gulp Shido?
Gulp Shido is the joke people have about, like, watching some Star Wars Netflix show. A character appears and someone more familiar with Star Wars goes, "Oh, holy shit, it's Gulp Shido." It's a reference to, like, minor Star Wars characters with backstories that most people don't know. You can make fun of it, but the beauty of Star Wars to me is that even in that first movie, there's enough detail and care put into the thing that you want to know more about what's going on.
Yeah.
Star Trek, for comparison. Star Trek has fans. People want to talk about what's going on in Star Trek, but on the big scale of, like, fleet actions and, like, fucking Federation Klingon geopolitics. No one wants to know more about most of the planet of the weeks they go to.
Yeah.
Whereas in Star Wars, usually, at least to me, they do a pretty good job making the fucking places you go on your journey feel like small snippets of a much larger thing. the first movie makes you want to know more about Tatooine and the Death Star and, like, Yavin 4. Because they have detail put into them.
And they imply more than they say.
Yes, and in Rogue Trader, you have that detail and that implication.
Yeah.
Like, there is a feeling that there is more. Whereas I'd say modern 40K feels very charted.
Well, would you say that even in modern Star Wars, there's still that feeling that there's more?
Yes. Well, I don't know about the new canon, but if you go back to, like, the last time I cared about new Star Wars stuff, which was around 2014.
In this house, this metaphorical house, Star Wars ended when Disney acquired it.
Yes, in the mythology of our bloodline.
Okay, I haven't seen most of the Disney Star Wars canon because we watched Episode 7 together, and I think that, at least at the time that I saw it, if I were to watch it again, I'm not saying that I would think the same thing of it, but at the time, it was the most infuriatingly awful movie I had ever seen. For some bizarre reason, a lot of people who hate the Disney Star Wars movies seem to continue to watch them, which baffles me.
Mistaken hope.
I was like, okay, I watched this. This is awful. I don't feel the need to torture myself by watching more of it. I did watch, like, the first season of The Mandalorian, and that was, I thought, quite good. But as far as I'm concerned, all of the Disney stuff is, like, I don't feel the need to follow. Like, if I were recommending somebody says, like, oh, Star Wars looks cool, I never watched it. You know, if I'm recommending somebody Star Wars, I would recommend them, like, watch the 6 movies that George Lucas made, and maybe The Mandalorian.
Yes, as I say about Star Wars, 3 good movies, 3 interesting ones.
Yeah. Watch the original canon, the 6 movies. And if you're not tired of Star Wars by then, watch The Mandalorian. I hear that Andor is also pretty good. I haven't actually seen it, so I can't confirm that.
I haven't seen Andor. Watch the first 3 movies. Spend a bunch of time at your local library reading Dark Horse Star Wars comics. Check out the essential guides. Then watch the prequels. Then play Lego Star Wars.
Okay, yeah, I think that most people will have far more fun with the Lego Star Wars games than anything that Disney has made.
And that's Lego Star Wars Original Trilogy 2 or Saga. Those were the ones we can attest to.
Yeah.
I was going to finish my thought here. After you've read some Dark Horse Star Wars comics and done the essential guides, then the prequel trilogy, and then, like, play some video games, then kind of forget about Star Wars for several years. Find Backstroke of the West via TV tropes.
Oh, yes! No! How could I fucking forget about Backstroke of the West? This is like a No. If there is one lesson that you take from this episode, if you've not seen Backstroke of the West, you have to fucking watch Backstroke of the West. It is the best Star Wars thing ever made, and I'm only half joking when I say that.
It may be the single funniest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, I think... Yes.
I will explain for a sec what Backstroke of the West is. Some guy named Jeremy Winterson, while he was in China, picked up a bootleg copy of Revenge of the Sith. It came with English subtitles, but these were not the English subtitles that came with the official movie. These were created by the pirates because it didn't come with English subtitles. The lip that they had, I guess. Or whatever pirated film. I don't know how it works.
However they got the movie, it didn't have English subtitles.
These were native speakers of Chinese. And what appears to have happened is that they watched the Chinese dub, written down what they thought they heard, and then machine translated that into English.
Well, it's possible. So I talked to a native Chinese speaker about this. So one example of the kind of insane, like, mangling that happened in this translation was the phrase "it seems" or "it seems like" is translated as "good elephant" or "in good elephant." So, if I remember correctly, the characters for "it seems" and "good elephant" are the same. It's pretty clear from context, usually, which one it means. But a machine translation does not have that context necessarily. And so that's kind of how it got to that. They may not have actually been writing stuff down, maybe. But there are some lines that are really weird and like how did they even get there? So I don't know. I would love to watch Backstroke of the West with a native Chinese speaker just to see if they could figure out how they arrived at the insane shit that the characters say in this movie.
I just want to point out that at multiple points in the movie, Count Dooku is called in the subtitles simply Dop.
Or the. His name is translated as the.
He's called the most of the time. And then there is a twist. Some people made a dub of Backstroke of the West using what's said on the subtitles. It's even funnier.
Yes. Okay, the subtitles were already funny, but the dub elevates it to like macrocosmic levels of hilarity. Because the voice acting is all done with complete seriousness, and it's really good voice acting.
There are only a few times in my life where I've laughed so hard that I could not breathe. One of them was my first time reading the Backstroke of the West blog post that Jeremy Winterson had. And then another time was watching the dub.
Yeah. the dub is really, like, fantastically done.
So, my point I was going to make is my system for the best way to enjoy Star Wars. Watch the original trilogy. Then check out a bunch of Dark Horse comics and the Essential Guide series from your local library. Read those a bunch. Watch the prequel trilogy. Play Lego Star Wars. Forget about it for several years, mostly. Then find Backstroke of the West with your sibling. Laugh a whole bunch. Then, years later, after getting disappointed about how the Disney Star Wars sequel turned out, deciding the magic is gone and just... I didn't hate it, I just found it uninteresting. Like, move on. Then, years later, go find Jesse Cox's Star Wars Old Canon Book Club podcast and rediscover your love for Star Wars.
Huh.
This is how I achieved maximum Star Wars-related enjoyment.
Well, I can't confirm if that will work for everybody, but thank you for sharing that. God, that sounds so passive-aggressive.
You sound like a therapist.
I'm disappointed in myself.
Watch SFW's Star Wars production documentaries. Hero's Journey, Shadow's Journey, Hermit's Journey. So,
Alright.
Worlds of the Imperium. I was just going to say, there's a section here. Although these planets are civilized, that is, their inhabitants live in cities, the humans that inhabit them are as bound by superstition, mysticism, and barbarism as many others in the Imperium. In the cities, sophisticated urbanites pray to the same gods, plural, and incant the same rituals as dull peasants in isolated villages. Like, for urban warriors and technological barbarians, rationality and science are as abhorrent as to the most hidebound rural farmer. This is a fantasy setting.
Yeah.
Like, we're talking about vibes here, and that's about civilized worlds inside the Imperium.
Yeah.
Not filler worlds or feudal worlds. Like, that's just life in the Imperium.
That's life.
As I say, the modern Imperium, if you look at the parts of 40K where they talk about daily life in the Imperium, which is not often, they still go with this vibe. But because this book spends so much time on normal life in the Imperium, you get more of it, and I think it's better this way. Case for world building. All of this lore gives the setting a feeling of possibility. You play the Warhammer game as it exists now, unless you specifically go out of your way to get creative with it, what's gonna happen for the foreseeable future of the Imperium is more big fights between the Imperium and Chaos and Xenos and stuff.
Yeah.
Here, again, the book's called Rogue Trader. There's a feeling you can get in your ship and go somewhere and find something cool.
Yeah. It's funny, you're talking about the case for world building, right? There was a book or an essay that I read once called Against World Building by the creator of Cultist Simulator, which is a game that we both like. So that game, it has lore, kind of. It drops lots of little hints about things. Essentially, in Against World Building, he's basically saying that unless you want to make the kind of thing that appeals specifically to people who want to memorize every aspect of a setting, what you should do is not to go for detail, go more for vibes. I kind of see where he's coming from, but I don't think he's necessarily right. I mean, it worked for him in Cultist Simulator, but I don't think he quite, got at the heart of why Cultist Simulator works so well. Cultist Simulator asks questions, it doesn't provide many answers. And sometimes you can have very detailed world-building things that ask lots of questions. And I think that that's kind of what's going on here. It implies possibilities.
Yes. I mean, I think that the case for world building and the case against world building are both half-truths. So, I'm normally hostile to some of the other people I know who are super into abstract world building. You can get sidetracked in your writing process by world building and not writing.
Yeah. Neither of us have ever been known to have that
Yes.
problem.
I speak from experience when I say it's dangerous.
Yes.
But the other point is, you can definitely fuck some people up by dumping too much world building on them. But what I'm talking about is I want to give people the feeling that the thing I'm making is somewhere people live.
Yeah.
Interspersing strategically details about how things other than what's currently going on in the plot work.
Yeah. And it makes people care about the world because it makes it feel more like a real place.
It makes it feel like something you can explore.
Yeah.
It is a big-ass info dump when it goes through all the branches of the Adeptus Terra in this book. I just like to know that there is an apparatus in place, running stuff.
Yeah.
It's about making it feel like a place people live in, and when I first encountered Dark Souls, it did seriously throw me off that it didn't feel like anybody lived there.
Yeah.
Once I got into the game and realized that, no, people actually don't live here.
Yeah.
It made way more sense. But there are too many fictional settings that feel like Dark Souls.
Yes.
When they're not set at the end of everything. It feels like people don't live here.
I would like to take another intermission here because I urgently need to shit.
So, the shirtless custodes from If the Emperor Had a Text-to-Speech Device are a reference to this. This is how they're described earlier when they talk about the custodes. Or later, I guess? At some point they describe them as wearing leather breeches with bare chests. It's not just that art. I think it was because they had a mini. Games Workshop had released a mini for something else that they were reusing. Also, that's the Emperor. Fucking writhing carcass.
Yeah. See, this guy doesn't look as grandiose. He just looks fucked up.
Mm-hmm. Oh, other important 40K thing. Eugenics. The Emperor is trying to prune humanity to become a fully psychic race.
Damn.
More psychers are evolving, and one of the main goals of the Inquisition is finding psychers, killing ones who are likely to be possessed by warp creatures, and bringing the others to go work for the Adeptus Astra Telepathica, or maintain the Astronomicon, or work in the Imperial Army or shit.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking to myself, this is straight up eugenics.
Yep.
And this is a thing that's downplayed in later 40K.
What do you mean downplayed?
They don't talk about it as much. Rogue psychers are not as much of a threat to humanity compared to, Chaos or aliens. Also, humanity evolving into a purely psychic race is more background lore. Oh, this is another thing that starts here that I find kind of annoying. The Imperium are the bad guys, but don't question their decisions. If you go down to the section on the Inquisition, the most common threat posed to humanity is that of psychos. The Inquisitor must not be on his guard for individual psychos who are mostly harmless, but for organizations, secret cults, and other so-called revolutionary groups working to hide and protect emergent psychos. Although such groups might start with good intentions, they always fall under the sway of psychically attuned aliens, creatures that wish to destroy or enslave mankind. Another great threat to humanity is that of mutation. Most mutations are harmless, but if humanity is to develop into a new psychically aware race envisioned by the Emperor, other sinister and potentially dangerous mutations must be destroyed. The work of the Inquisitor has earned him the title of witch hunter, torturer, and worse. Where necessary, he's both of these and things more terrible, for any means justifies an end so vital and so endangered.
Yeah.
Like, the Imperium are bad guys, but, like, there is a definite strain in 40K of the things the Imperium does that are bad are totally justified and are the way to solve problems.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you'd think for dudes who are bad, you would give them some space to be wrong about some of these things.
Yeah.
When Michael Moorcock wrote about how genre fiction was, like, really authoritarian, his main argument was the tendency to give unimpeachable moral authority to the protagonist.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know, I kind of get it here. Like, even though they're not moral, the rules of the universe bend to justify the Imperium's actions.
It's hypernormalization.
Yeah, the rules of how the setting works are specially set up to make the most extreme shit possible the main viable solution. Like, they also say, it would be simple to think of the Emperor as an evil corruption of nature, yet as the Adeptus Terra teach, the sorrow and slaughter that feeds his divine corpse is a trifling price to pay for the survival of the race. That's talking about sacrificing psychers to him because he feeds on the souls of psychers.
You'd think they'd run out of psychers eventually.
No, because humanity's evolving into a psychic race. More psychers keep getting born every year.
Yeah, but how many people get sacrificed to him every day?
1,000.
Yeah.
It's an Imperium of billions. They're fine.
Yeah, but, like, how fast could they ship these people to him and find them?
Apparently fast enough. They have a whole division for it. They have a whole fleet of black ships to take psychers away. Oh, the other thing is a lot of psychers who work in the Astronomicon who aren't directly sacrificed to him die quickly anyway because of the strain.
So it basically just fucking sucks to be born as a psyker in 40K. Like those YouTube videos that for some reason get recommended to me constantly that are just black text on a white background that say, like...
Why it would suck to be a blank in blank.
Yeah. And I don't understand why the algorithm loves these things so much.
Yeah, but being a psyker doesn't completely suck. If you're a powerful and stable psyker, you get to be like a space marine, a librarian, or like a astropath who does comms on spaceships. It's luck-based.
Yeah. Also, I want to call attention to the guy on this page with the mohawk and like the leather straps on his shoulders.
I think that's a metal, band.
Basically, everybody in this edition looks like either a biker or a cop.
What about these guys?
Okay, there's still some, Actually, no, these guys look like Xeon dudes from Gundam. Because they have the emblem on their shirts.
Yeah.
But it's either, some kind of religious imagery, bikers, or cops. Probably cops who ride motorcycles.
What about football hooligans? Some of them look like football hooligans.
Oh yeah, there's a bit of football hooligan in there too. Anyway.
I have a point I want to add quickly. Lionel Johnson is one of the Space Marine Primarchs. That's spelled Lion, L' Johnson. In this edition, it's spelled Lynelgonsen.
Gonson?
Lynn Elgonson.
Wait, can I see... what? Lynn Elgonson. Okay.
So, for reference, he was the founder of the Dark Angel Space Marine chapter. Lionel Johnson was a 19th century English poet and one-time lover of Oscar Wilde, who wrote a poem called The Dark Angel. And The Dark Angel is about being gay and trying to suppress it to save his immortal soul. I think somebody involved in this was a fan of poetry.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, quick thing. Inquisitor Obi-Wan Sherlock Clouseau is actually a character in this book.
Yes.
I needed to quickly make sure to mention that because it's... people say it's stupid. I think it's fun.
Yeah. All right. What is that note that just says a page number and then dim 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 dom dom dom?
We'll get to that.
Gentlemen, I'm gonna be real with you. I have no idea what the fuck an Atam Tambor is.
Each chapter has a home base, which Space Marine chapter's leader will usually make a bargain with the planet's governor, paying a tithe in return for being allowed to build and occupy their own fortress. First edition Space Marines have to pay taxes to planetary governors. It's totally different from the relationship in modern 40K.
Yeah.
Also, the other thing about the Imperium is they like to draw Space Marines from filler worlds because they're rough and untamed and I guess have, fighting and survival skills.
Mm-hmm.
But for true aggression and psychotic killer instinct, few recruits can best the murderous followers of the city scum that roam the darkest pits of the Hive worlds. Driven to extremes of insanity by the colossal pressures of Hive world living, these merciless killers are usually ignored by the authorities. Indeed, their warrants are so vast it would make them impractical to eradicate them completely. They make ideal Space Marines, and whole gangs of city scum are sometimes hunted and captured for this purpose. Some recruits come from the civilized areas of the Imperium, but not very many. Space Marines in first edition. Fucked up. Like, they're still pretty fucked up, but I do like Space Marines are taken from Hive gangers.
Yeah.
Rogue traders.
The way that this works in this edition is basically the rogue trader hires a bunch of mercenaries to go off and do shit, and that's the player character, right?
It's a player character idea.
Okay.
You're not assumed to be a rogue trader, it's just a possibility.
Mm-hmm.
It's a hook.
Yeah.
One important detail about how the Imperium works is that in this edition, the Astronomicon has a specific limit. Like, the Astronomicon is like the North Star of space travel. A lighthouse, kind of.
Okay.
And basically, the Imperium cannot expand outside the range of the Astronomicon. Astrogation becomes too dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the galaxy remains unexplored, unknown, and dangerous, but basically the Adeptus Terra licenses rogue traders to explore the far regions of the galaxy, possibly beyond the light of the Astronomicon. You get leeway on how to react to alien cultures, discoveries, and threats. If he judges the race to be potentially dangerous, he may attempt to destroy it. Or if he decides it's of use to humanity, he may attempt to make contact and establish relations. Important 40k point. In first edition, the Imperium did not want to kill all aliens. Like, they're super brutal. But the goal is not a humanity-only universe. Or even humans as the only, species with, tech.
Yeah.
So they don't hire mercenaries. They're given soldiers and a crew when they receive their warrant of trade. I also like the detail that the rogue traders are how the Imperium gets rid of people who are too powerful to kill. So politics sometimes obliges this course. For free of Imperial command, the rogue trader is also conveniently out of the way, beyond the center of real power.
Yeah.
Rogue traders have a reputation as outcasts. Many are people whom the priesthood deems better kept at a safe distance. Vociferous space marine leaders, influential navigators, liberal-minded inquisitors, and rebellious imperial commanders. Most of these people would not be allowed to exist in modern 40k.
Yeah.
If I was going to make a 40k TV show of some kind, and I could do it any possible way, it would be the Star Captain dude is given a warrant of trade to get rid of him because he's been living on the edge of acceptable imperial policy.
Yeah.
You could make a guy who's not a true believer this way without having him be full-on renegade.
You remember I was saying a while back, after watching Cyberpunk Edgerunners, I was thinking about, like, what other things would I like to see Trigger adapt? Studio Trigger being the anime studio that made Cyberpunk Edgerunners. Oh, like, what is the craziest thing that they could adapt? And I was like, Warhammer 40K? No, I don't... I mean, they would do a good job with it because they're Trigger, but it's not quite their style. And then I was like, maybe first edition 40K.
I don't think an anime adaptation would work that well.
This is a crazy idea, like, regardless. Like, it probably wouldn't work. But if you have to adapt Warhammer 40K as an anime, you give it to Trigger and you try to, like, evoke the old school feel of, like, just a bunch of random shit. Like, not the actual canon, but just, like, the first edition rulebook and the feel of, like, random stuff that the creators thought was cool.
Yeah. The other thing I was suggesting is that I think a live-action series, just do it like a fever dream version of Star Trek. Like Planet of the Week, but full of serial menace.
That's pretty good.
So I want to show you some shit. Page 172. You have human renegades with Smash the Empire written back there.
Mm-hmm.
These appear to be renegade space marines. They're not chaos marines. This is one of my complaints about 40K in the modern day, is that there is no room in the setting for people who are, like, would theoretically be of a faction, but are not true believers, but are also not out-and-out traitors.
Yeah.
There are space marines, for example, who are renegade chapters, who do not follow chaos, but don't follow the Imperium either. They get very little coverage in 40K.
Mm-hmm. They don't really talk very much about people who, like, dislike the Empire just because it sucks. Nobody would write Smash the Empire in modern 40K.
It isn't really a thing. Or at least it's kind of a thing, but it doesn't get time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there are Imperial breakaways that get talked about that are not Chaos aligned, but they just get briefly name-dropped. Or like in the RPG-only war, the Fantasy Flight Games Imperial Guide RPG. There's an Imperial breakaway called the Severian Dominate that's really interesting. It's the personal realm of rogue trader Cassius Severus, who basically didn't want to pay taxes. At least I think that was part of it. He recognizes the Emperor, but doesn't follow Imperial law. It's pretty interesting. Like, I'm not saying this because I want people with more conventional morality here. I just want this to be a world where there are different kinds of people.
Yeah. I think that just, like, whenever you have a regime that
fucking sucks,
there will be people who don't like it, regardless of what the morality of the setting is. If you kill a bunch of your citizens, regardless of why, you're going to make some people hostile.
And I just dislike that almost all of the traders we see are chaos aligned.
Yeah.
So, you also have a space marine in camouflage in the upper right.
Yeah, but it's blue camouflage.
It's not great camo, but it is camo. You wouldn't see that now. Also, the Emperor's Palace. Another drawing of the Emperor looking unspectacular.
Yeah.
But I like this Emperor more. I empathize with his struggle. Oh, that is the other things. They talk about the Emperor. The Emperor, like, apparently still thinks. Like, they talk about him trying to keep the Astronomicon going.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he has agency. And they talk about the, like, total agony he feels.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool. So, I want to explain dib dob.
Okay.
This is the page about Ogryns.
Uh-huh.
This is an Ogryn fighting some Eldar.
Yeah.
He is not able to produce intelligent commentary.
Okay.
Squats. I feel like other people have covered squats better. Eldar. They say here that Eldar can interbreed with humans and may share a common ancestor.
Interesting.
The truth will probably never be known. That shit got dropped. Eldar are pretty cool in this edition. They say they're frequently encountered on human worlds as merchants and traders. They also have some choice things to say about Eldar mercenaries here. Eldar mercenaries can be hired by any human governor or rebel with sufficient money and no scruples. These inhuman warriors are renegade amongst their own kind, murderers, psychotics, criminals, and anarchists. Only desperate men would stoop to employing Eldar mercenaries. Those who do inevitably come to regret it. These sellswords owe nothing to anyone and are quite happy to switch sides or pursue their own objectives when the opportunity arises.
Oh no, anarchists. They're gonna argue amongst themselves.
Anarchists in this thing where we gave a guy a class tattoo.
Yeah. They're gonna set up a mutual aid soup kitchen and then argue a bunch about how it should be run. Oh no.
I will admit, the only actual fight I've ever been close to, or only actual fight I've ever participated in, was between anarchists. But that was because the one guy had kicked the other anarchist out of his apartment because she had been covering up this other guy who had been, like, abusing his girlfriend, and she hadn't told the other people in the apartment. And so the remaining two people in the apartment kicked the other two out, and now she was homeless.
Ah.
And that's why she decked this guy at the mutual aid meeting.
Dang.
And a bunch of people went to restrain her. I was, like, in the back of this pile.
Why is your life so much more interesting than mine?
Punch the ticket, take the ride. I look for opportunities and then go deal with them. Eldar are not exclusively bad. They talk about other types of Eldar, but mercenaries are not good.
I just want to point out real quick that the helmets and ships and stuff that the Eldar have look like they are very poisonous to eat.
Oh yeah, bright colors, many patterns.
Yeah.
Victory does not rest with the big guns, but if we rest in front of them, we shall be lost.
That's based. Sorry, based.
Other picture here. These blood angels are getting absolutely jumped. This guy's taken some hits. One of them is firing kind of blindly. Like,
what is shooting at them?
An orc?
The orc is dropping its gun.
They got ambushed and this guy foiled it. But I like that these space marines are shown in a bad situation.
Yeah.
You don't see that anymore.
Somebody I know, he was working on a project and he said something about, like, we don't want to always give people the superhero 3-point landing. Sometimes they screw up. Sometimes they're on the back foot. Sometimes things are, like, don't go well. And, like, awkward, chaotic things happen.
Also, the fucking Imperial the slogans on Space Marine armor with, like, kill, 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 and if you can read this, you're dead, and the guy with hate on his hand.
Yeah.
I like all of that stuff. It's more expressive.
Yeah.
Also, they discuss human-orc relations this way.
Violence?
People say on the first meeting of man and orc exchanged a long, hard look and didn't care much for what they saw.
Yeah.
Orcs and their servants are mankind's principal enemies.
Interesting.
Also, look at this art. Admech, and then a guy with a sign that says Pontifex Maximus. Look at these guys. You would not see this shit in modern 40K.
No.
They're just hanging. Other thing. The Slan. These were completely cut from later 40K editions. The frog-like humanoids who were they had an extremely powerful empire. The empire doesn't exist anymore. They're also primitive Slan in former colonies that have degenerated, but some Slans still have tech. Primitive Slan live on Imperial worlds, which means, like, again, alien species not getting genocided by the Imperium.
Yeah. I like how you said they were a frog-like species that were extremely, and then stopped to, like, reformulate your sentence. I like the idea that they were just extremely.
They were extreme. Look at this art. They're pretty extreme.
It's hardcore. Yeah, it's hardcore.
Hardcore to the max.
Hardcore to the max.
Tyranids are pretty similar to how they are in 40K, other than, like, there is a thing that Tyranids look like. It actually describes one main form. It's this. But the important bit, extended contact with Tyranids may result in insanity.
Interesting.
The other thing is Tyranids were fucking terrifying from day one. The Tyranid threat to the universe is impossible to measure, but potentially very great indeed. Their whole attitude to other races can only result in war wherever they are met, a war which only the Tyranids can win.
Dang.
Tyranids I find genuinely fucking scary. The idea of the universe being eaten by this big, but somehow technologically advanced thing of hungry insects.
Yeah.
They come from outside the galaxy and they're making a beeline for Earth.
Yeah.
They're scarier to me than Chaos. There is life of a kind among Chaos worshippers. Tyranids just exist to eat. But then here's the weird bit. Gene stealers in later editions are a type of Tyranid. In this edition, they're not. They're their own thing. They implant eggs in people. Egg hatches, kills the host. It doesn't produce an identical gene stealer to the one you saw. Instead, it produces a hybrid. The gene stealer hybrid looks mostly like the thing it was implanted in, so they can infiltrate societies. And it says, gene stealers in games lend themselves to all sorts of interesting situations. Their vampirish habits can be exploited to enact games with vampiric plots. For example, a human gene stealer lordling is being attacked in his castle by outraged peasants supported by an inquisitor and his imperial troops. You just had vampires in this book a few minutes ago. Fucking vampires who infiltrate other races in disguise and then feed off of psychic energy. Yeah, this is the vampire.
Yeah.
Also, remember, gene stealers are not necessarily evil or stupid. Cross-humans will have many human traits, may socialize with humans, and may even help humans in some circumstances.
Interesting.
This is not how they are in later 40K.
You can tell that, like, the interest here is in telling stories. It's like, here's this creature, and here's this cool plot hook that you can use that's associated with this creature, right?
You're gonna have an adventure.
Yeah. The attitude is very different from later editions.
Yes, and I like it more.
Yeah. You're having an adventure with your friends, with these little minis that you've made, sitting around a table and, like, telling these stories. It's closer to a tabletop RPG in spirit.
Yes, but it has the cool wargame thing where you control a bunch of people.
Yeah.
So you could have very cool scenarios where you've got, like... The other thing they suggest is that the Gene Stealer Lordling is backed up by a bunch of other Gene Stealer hybrids of other creatures, so you have, like, a bunch of wolf hybrids, or, like, bat hybrids to attack people.
Yeah.
So you have a fight between Gene Stealer hybrids of many different types of animals and Imperial troops. Like, that's some cool shit.
Yeah.
Those are some cool scenarios. They talk about lost worlds within the Eye of Terror. The Eye of Terror is a giant warp storm in this period in the lore. The thing that's interesting to me about this shit is it's more hooks.
Yeah.
Like, the Eye of Terror abates periodically, and so the Imperium goes in to establish order. But there's this whole society that's been living on its own in the Eye of Terror, cut off from space travel.
Ah. Yeah.
Also, I don't know what this is supposed to say, but it looks like this guy's graffitied Marines, lol. And the Imperium, they're about to go beat him up.
This guy is also dressed like a punk.
Yes, then there's the Advanced Gamer section.
Advanced Gamer. Hardcore.
Oh, here's a good line. Though my guards may sleep and my ships may lay at anchor, our foes know full well that big guns never tire. Attributed to the Tyrant of Badab. The Tyrant of Badab would get a whole campaign around him in something called the Badab War. It was all very cool. It was a guy named Luft Huron, who was a space marine turned pilot, and that's Luft spelled L-U-G-H-T. And I love that they extrapolated all that shit from just...
This one quote, yeah.
Yeah.
I also like that Badab is a palindrome.
Yes. Also, big guns never tire.
Alright.
Almost done.
Plot generator. So we were just saying about, like, telling stories, with the focus being on storytelling. Like, to just quickly describe what this is.
You roll on a table. You get a hook.
Yeah. It's literally just like an random adventure ideas table from an RPG book.
A shortage of food on a hive world has sparked off widespread rebellion. Factions are fighting factions, and everyone is fighting the government as billions of psychotic citizens go on a rampage. Government troops have secured most of the military establishment, but the planet's governor and his personal staff are trapped in the palace. The surrounding hordes must be destroyed and the palace secured as the first stage in restoring order.
This is like the French Revolution.
I was going to make a quip about how these starving peasants are considered psychotic, but then I remembered that this is first edition 40K. Everyone is described as psychotic.
Everyone in the setting is psychotic just as a general rule.
Oh, you have Quell Rebellion and then Support Rebellion. Oh, fuck. The pro-Imperial rebel forces. That's just a strange thought.
Yeah. The idea that somebody might want to join the Imperium.
Yeah, but it actually makes sense. Like, there have been rebellions in favor of things we've considered despotic before.
If your alternative is, like...
Random Pirate Prince.
Random Pirate Prince or, like... Actually, Random Pirate Prince is probably still better than the Imperium.
I think with the first edition Imperium, maybe not. Rebels are a constant threat within the Imperium. Dissatisfaction and insanity are rife among hive worlds. Throw in a few mentally unstable governors and I'll see why keeping order is a full-time occupation. Is that a pun?
Oh, God.
An extreme religious faction has taken over an imperial world, resulting in widespread carnage, persecution of minorities, and a strictly enforced religious code based around being nice to people. Thousands have been maimed or imprisoned for failing to observe the scriptures, and you have to aid pro-imperial rebels against them. Dude, this is some rogue trader shit.
Yeah.
The fucking tyrannical, minority-hating religion based on being nice to people. Very real.
Alright.
There's one thing... Yes, this is what I was looking for. 7680. Prior to the outbreak of hostilities, the Earth was visited by Dr. Costello's amazing intergalactic psychic circus. The circus is now caught up in the fight, and its collection of dangerous creatures, weird aliens, frightening mutants, and psychic clowns are trying to defend their circus/escape/survive.
That's really good. Actually, you know what all this really reminds me of? I haven't actually read Battle Angel Alita, but there's this YouTube video called Battle Angel Alita Can't Be a Real Manga. It is, like, also a thing of the 80s with lots of biker dudes and space things and psychic clowns.
Yeah.
From what I have seen of it, it would fit in with the aesthetic of first edition 40K.
An administrative error has dispatched two identical forces to an alien-controlled world. Both have identical orders: destroy all armed resistance on the planet. The inhabitants might be mimics or have hallucinogenic powers. You see where this is going. So I think that covers almost everything.
You had a bit in the notes about tech is the imperial language, not Gothic.
Okay, author's notes on language. The older tongue of the Imperium is known as Tech, being a version of a language in which technical manuals and ancient works are recorded. And the common language is bastardized Tech. It would get later changed to High Gothic and Low Gothic. Very different implication.
Yeah.
Oh, and then there's this paragraph here where it says that the deification of the Emperor is not officially recognized, but is accepted and even encouraged within the Adeptus Terra. So different from how it is now.
Yeah.
They also describe missionaries as holding evangelical rallies to support the imperial cult, which is funny to me. At these evangelical rallies, they're encouraged to confess personal mutations, as well as mutations or strange behavior among their friends and relatives. Confession is not necessarily good for the soul, but it does help the process of mutant control, which is vital to the future of humanity. They make the Inquisition's job of tracking mutants way easier. I don't know, that's some bleak shit.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, first artwork of a Sister of Battle. Engaged in a firefight with a Space Marine of the Rainbow Warriors chapter. Someone suggested, given their symbol is a rainbow and the Sisters of Battle are very religious coded, this might be a hate crime.
Yeah.
They describe standard template constructs. So standard template constructs teach you how to make stuff in this edition. Later on, they'd actually fabricate it. They're one of the things that kept humanity in technology after everything went to shit. There's a line about how humans think that the existence of STCs is the only possible reason for Orcish civilization. And that's humans think, not this is true.
Yeah.
Many humans attribute the entire Orcish civilization to early STCs, but the truth will never be known. And then it ends with a timeline. Also, I think there's a typo because it goes 15 millennia before the present, 20 millennia, then 15 again.
Or either that or some very strange time travel shenanigans are going on.
So, that's 40K first edition, Rogue Trader.
Interesting.
It is interesting. I feel like there are a lot of myths about Rogue Trader, because most people haven't read it. The whole "it is a parody of fascism" is, I don't think, entirely true.
Yeah, no.
Like, it's darkly humorous, and the Imperium of Man is authoritarian, but I don't think it's, like, thought out enough to be satirical.
It says, in the nightmare future of the 40th millennia on the back.
That should be 41st millennium.
Yeah.
So, we've discussed Rogue Trader. I wish that there was more stuff on the market now that was like Rogue Trader Warhammer 40,000.
The things that are interesting to me about this are like, you said people say it has tone problems.
I'm not sure I said that, but I think there's something weird going on with the tone, certainly.
Yeah, but I don't think it has tone problems. There's a clear sense that the people who made this were having fun. And even though the setting is bleak, the game is clearly meant to be fun.
There's the whole "have you ever left the cinema and wished you could do this?" That is the thing. It's the joy of being able to play sci-fi battles.
Yeah.
The sheer joy that you're actually doing it suffuses this book.
Yeah.
Like, good, evil, you're just happy to be there.
Yeah.
It is an adventure you two can live if you dare.
Yeah.
Like, that's what it's all about. Modern 40K doesn't have that.
I kind of felt that way with this Lancer campaign that I'm starting, where it's like, oh shit, I have watched so much mecha stuff, but it's like, I get to do it now, you know?
And the thing I like about 40K, in this edition, I keep talking about detail. In this edition, there's still enough left open to the imagination that you could do any kind of sci-fi scenario.
Right.
There's a line in chapter-approved Book of the Astronomicon, which is an expansion. It's about a Space Wolves unit that's out patrolling. And their 5-year mission to fight the enemies of the Imperium could cover an entire television series and multiple high-budget movies. And I'm like, yeah. You know, fucking Space Wolf Star Trek, it wouldn't make sense now, but in first edition 40K it kind of makes sense. You could do Star Wars. You could have Ancient Order of Psychers fighting against the Imperium, have a special character that was Luke Skywalker. Like, you could do all kinds of different scenarios, and they encourage you to. There's something appealing about this. You know, the concept that 1D4chan talks about your dudes.
Yep.
Like, you make your dudes, you put time and effort into them, you do something. Like, this is even more your dudes than later, because it's explicitly based on, like, building your own army lists and designing adventures and stuff. And I think it would be very cool to have, like, maybe a retro clone of Rogue Trader, or just a fucking war game that has a GM and spends more time on cool scenarios.
Yeah.
That's what it's about.
Yeah. The other thing that was interesting to me about this is that whole bit we had about how lore... You can set up lore to ask questions, so that the more you learn about the setting, the more possibilities it leads you to imagine. It's pretty cool.
Do you have anything else you want to say?
Nope. We should play Lancer sometime.
We should play Lancer. Also, now I want to write a piece of science fiction that has the same moody but also absurd vibe as early 40K.
Yeah.
There's a weird feeling when I read this shit of silence, which is weird in a piece of written material. I think it's the quotes on the black space that are short. It fucking hits like a goddamn hammer and there's nothing else around it.
Yeah. I gotta finish that Heavy Weapon Zero Vision thing I was writing and then send it to you guys, because it kind of has that going on. Not quite the same.
Alright. I've been a Tau, which is not in this edition.
And I've been a Lancer pilot, which is also not in this edition.
And this has been Podcasted On, over 6 million actively updating podcasts in the world. Thank you for listening to this one.
Good night. A better way of representing a rogue trader is to generate his profile randomly.
Yeah, that's fair. I feel so unsure as I take your hand and lead you to the dance floor. As the music dies, something in your eyes calls to mind the silver screen and all its sad goodbyes. I'm never gonna dance again. Guilty feet have got no rhythm, though it's easy to pretend. I know you're not a fool. I should've known better than to cheat a friend and waste the chance that I've been given. So I'm never gonna dance again the way I danced with you. Time can never mend the careless whispers of a good friend. To the heart and mind, ignorance is kind. There's no comfort in the truth. Pain is all you'll find. I'm never gonna dance again. Guilty feet have got no rhythm, though it's easy to pretend. I know you're not a fool. I should've known better than to cheat a friend and waste the chance that I've been given. So I'm never gonna dance again the way I danced with you. Tonight the music seems so loud. I wish that we could lose this crowd. Maybe it's better this way. We'd heard each other things we want to say, things we want to say. We could have been so good together. We could have lived this dance forever. But now who's gonna dance with me? And I'm never gonna dance again. Guilty feet have got no rhythm. Though it's easy to pretend, I know you're not a fool. Though it's easy, I should've known better than to cheat. I know you're not and waste the chance that I should've known better than to cheat. So I'm never gonna waste the chance that I've been danced with you. So I'm never gonna dance again the way I danced with you.